Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 61. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajacacharya Stotara Sata Sri Srimadesi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prinsaka Ho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 61. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara vasehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara vasehi yasyendriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara vasehi yasyendriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. Tani, those senses, sarvani, all, samyamya, keeping under control, yukta, being engaged, Asita, being so situated. Matparaha, in relationship with me. Vase, in full subjugation. He, certainly. Yasya, one whose. Indriyani, senses. Tasya, his. Prajna, consciousness. Pratishtita, fixed. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Purport. That the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride, and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Savaimana Krishna Padaravindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvardhane Karo Harer Mandira Marjanadishu Shrutim Chakra Chuta Sat Kathodaye Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drisho Tadbritya Gatra Uparshe Anga Sangamam Granam cha tatpada saroja sorabhe Srimad Tulasya rasanam tadarpite Padoharir kshetra padanusarpane Shirori shikesha padabhivandane Kamam cha dasye natu kama kanya kamyaya Yato tamashloka janashraya ratihi. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. He engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy places where his temples are situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matparaha, devotee of the Lord. Bhagavatam 9.4, 18-20. The word Matparaha is most significant in this connection. How one can become a Matparaha is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarish. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana, a great scholar and acharya in the line of the Matparaha, remarks, Mad Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvendriya Vijaya Purveka Swetatma Drishti Surabeti Bhavaha. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As the small flames within burn everything within the room, similarly Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something which is not the Vishnu form simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. That is the aim of real yoga. Tani sarvani samyagnya yukta asita matparaha vasahi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. So here Krishna continues his description of the need of sense control to be able to understand our spiritual nature. As I explained in my previous class on Wednesday, the living entity, you, me, I, we are living within the body. We don't say I body, we say my body, meaning that I am the possessor of the body. This is my body, that is your body. So the my body means that the body is one principle, and me, my, the owner, is another principle. I am not the body is not me. I am living inside the body, which is called yantra. In the 18th chapter, Krishna says, yantra arudani mayaya. The living entity is traveling within this body made of the material energy. And because he identifies with the material energy, with the body, then he takes birth again and again and again in different bodies. Our consciousness at the moment of death determines our next life. This consciousness is called bhava. Bhava means our inner consciousness, what we really are. Not who we pretend to be, but who we really are. Sometimes when we go through great pain, we tend to go to God and to pray, please help me with this pain. In other words, when the material body, when the mind and senses give us too much trouble, we can understand that we are being imposed upon, that me, I don't want this trouble, I don't want this pain. Therefore, in this verse, samyamya is mentioned. It's a very important word. Samyamya comes from yama. Yama means to curb or to force. So the first principle of yoga, the first principle of understanding our spiritual nature is controlling the senses by yama. When you practice yoga, the first point is yama and niyama. And then asana. You cannot sit in a secluded place unless you can control your mind and senses. By mind and sense control, you can sit and you can actually practice the breathing exercises, which is called pranayama. When you are able to practice the yoga exercises, you come to the point called when you able to retract the senses from the sense objects. When you are able to control the mind and the senses, you're able to withdraw, just like a turtle. When a tortoise or a turtle is in trouble, is in danger, he goes inside his shell. His legs, his arms, and his head, he goes inside his shell because he is protected there. So this protection that we are seeking from the mind and the senses is done through the control of the senses, and then we can actually meditate. We can actually practice meditation, detachment, and come to understand our spiritual nature. A yogi, of course, he looks within his heart to find the super soul there. Just like I am conscious of my body, there is another consciousness which is conscious in everyone's body. If you go to a meeting of sadhus or people who are interested in spiritual life, you will see that everyone understands there is something besides me, and we all can feel this. And this super consciousness is called Paramatma. So, in this verse, samyamya, or the control of the senses, is given great importance by Krishna. He says by controlling the senses, we can become pragya pratishta. We can actually become matparaha. Pragya pratishta means fixed in consciousness. When we are fixed in Krishna consciousness, then we become Narayana para. Narayana para means that there is nothing in our lives more important than Narayana, than God, than Krishna. Once you understand your spiritual identity and the connection of that identity to the supreme identity, there is no better knowledge. It is called Raja Vidya, or the king of knowledge. Raja Guyam, it is very, very confidential. You cannot just get it. You cannot just go to some yogi or to some person or to some college or to some university or read some book and get this knowledge. It is not possible. This knowledge of our eternal relationship with Krishna comes by the mercy of a pure devotee of Krishna. Krishna has to agree to become visible and to become understood by us. Krishna has to give us the blessing that we may become conscious of him. And then when we come to this point, this is called, as Krishna says here, Matparaha, or Narayana Para. There is a story of once Lord Shiva and Parvati, they were sitting in their abode, and Lord Shiva had Parvati sitting on his lap. So one demigod, Chitraketu, who was flying in his aeroplane, he made a joke at Lord Shiva, saying, "Ha, you're such a great yogi, but you have your woman sitting on your lap. So where is your detachment?" So Lord Shiva, he understood it was a joke. He didn't become affected. But Parvati, being a woman, she became insulted, she became angry, and she cursed Chitraketu to fall down. And Chitraketu, when he was cursed, he humbly joined his hands and he bowed down before Devi, Parvati, and he said, "My dear mother, I have offended you. Please forgive me." And when he did this, Lord Shiva, he smiled and he turned to his wife. "Just see, this demigod flying in the sky, he has defeated you. You became angry, you cursed him, but he didn't curse you back. He didn't become angry. He accepted your curse on his head." And he quoted this very nice verse, "Narayana para sarve na kutaschana bibbati. Swarga upavarga narakeshu tasya tulartha darshina." That one who is Narayana para, because Chitraketu was a great devotee of Krishna, of Narayan. He was Narayana para. His main business, his main wealth, his main consciousness was Narayan. So no curse could affect him. So Lord Shiva said, this is Narayana para. It doesn't matter what happens to him. It doesn't matter whether he's cursed to go here or there or anywhere. He's not afraid. Swarga upavarga narakeshu. Whether he goes to the heavenly planets, whether he becomes liberated, whether he goes to hell, narakeshu, tulartya darshina. He sees everything equal. Tula means balance. So tulartya darshina means that it doesn't matter what the material situation is for a devotee. Because a Narayana para devotee is always so enlivened by his connection with Krishna. And when you become Krishna conscious, it is like a whole world opening up before you. We've been suffering in material life, life after life after life. Anadi karamafale, puri bavar navajale. Bhaktivinoda said, because of the fruits of my karma, the results of my work, anadi, which have no beginning. I cannot remember how I came into this material world. Sometimes the devotees, they have these very discussions. How can a soul fall from Vaikuntha if someone is a devotee, is a part and parcel of Krishna? How does he fall away? but actually we cannot remember how we fell away. We cannot remember how we came into this body. I cannot even remember my previous life. What about the lies? And there has been a previous life, because if there hadn't been a previous life, I wouldn't be having a present life. If I didn't have activities which are becoming manifested in my destiny, good and bad, fortune and distress, coming to me, that indicates there is a previous work. One of the things that I used to ponder about as I grew up, I've actually had two kinds of educations. My primary education was in Italy, where I studied Italian, Latin, little German, Italian literature. Then my secondary education was in English. I went to English schools, lived in South Africa, spoke English. Therefore, I was kind of transplanted from one place to the other. When I became aware of my situation, when my mother was alive, I used to go to church every Sunday because I'm a Catholic. Because if I didn't go to church on Sunday, there would be hell to pay. She would make my life impossible. So every Sunday I had to go to church. But as soon as she died when I was a young man, I stopped going to church because there was no answer to my question. I remember at school, before starting classes in South Africa, we would have a 45-minute catechism class, which was hosted by a priest as a teacher. And there was so much dogma. For example, I couldn't understand that if you commit a mortal sin, according to the Christians, you go to hell forever. So this was the statement. So I would put up my hand and say, well, God is our Father. No? Yes. And He loves us. Not so? Yes, He loves us. Then how can my Father who loves me send me to hell forever? Okay, I may deserve to go to hell. I may be punished to go to hell for 100 years, a million years, but forever? Where is the love? So there was no answer. And then, of course, the other dogma that used to come up was that if you're not baptized, then you go to hell. Then I would ask, well, what about all the people in Africa who don't get baptized? What about the Hindus? What about the Buddhists? Get out of my class. That was the answer I used to get. So I became disappointed. I was inquiring and I wasn't getting any answers. I couldn't understand why people enjoyed and suffered. I can understand that if we start on a competition on our lives with equal assets, then we can go forward and backwards according to our work. But I could see that we didn't start equally. Not everybody is born equal. Not everyone is intelligent, rich, from a good family, with good destiny. Some people are born poor, ignorant, in a bad family, in a criminal family. So why should we be judged if we don't have equal opportunity? That didn't seem fair to me. If God is fair, and I could see that the universe was fair, the laws are very fair. It's not that if I put my hand in the fire, it won't burn. No. Even a child puts his hand in the fire, it will burn. The fire is equal to everyone. Winter, summer, growing, getting ill, dying, that is equal to everybody. But we don't start off equally. That didn't make sense. That took my third education, my higher education, which I got in India, to answer these questions. And the answer is because anadi karama phale. Because of our activities going back previous lives. If we are not born equal, that signifies there is a previous situation that caused this unequal birth. There is a reason why I was born in a good family or I was born in a bad family. There is a reason why I am beautiful or I am ugly or intelligent or foolish. And the reason is coming from previous lives. Therefore, at a very young age, as a teenager, I became very much interested in reincarnation and understanding. And then later on, when I actually met Prabhupada, I was able to put all the pieces together by the mercy of his wonderful books. And the basic teaching of Srila Prabhupada is that you're not the body. The basic teaching is that you are an eternal servant of God. By His mercy, we were able to connect with Krishna. We were able to awaken our eternal relationship with God, because it is there in every one of us. It's not that Krishna consciousness is only for the Hindus. Krishna is not a Hindu God. Krishna is the God of everyone. Sarva yonishu konteya murtaya sambhavati yam. Krishna says that every living entity, aham bija pradapita, I am the seed-giving father. And it doesn't just mean people living in India or the Hindus. It means everybody. And it doesn't just mean human beings. It also means animals and the plants and the trees and the fish. Every single atom of creation is being fathered by Krishna. So when one becomes Krishna conscious, he cannot see anything but Krishna. Everywhere he looks, he sees Krishna. Just as I was explaining on Wednesday, when the prostitute enticed Haridas Thakur, the great devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't see a prostitute. He didn't see a woman. He saw a spirit soul. Now, every one of us is bound by the chains of sex life. We are attracted to women, and women are attracted to men. This is the basic principles of human life. To break this attachment, which is the cause of our taking births again and again and again, to break this attachment, we have to see everything in connected with Krishna. Then we no longer will exploit our neighbor. We will not exploit anybody else. Just like Haridas. He saw the spirit soul. How can I help this woman? Even she offered to enjoy with me. It is not my business to enjoy somebody else's property. If I enjoy somebody else's property without his permission, I become a criminal. Therefore, we don't eat anything that's not offered to Krishna. We don't do anything which is not connected to Krishna. Everything we do, this is a pure devotee. Everything he sees, everything he does is connected with Krishna. And this consciousness is so wonderful that it goes beyond birth and death. It is the real eternal activity of the soul. And once you enter into that activity of the soul, you become eternally free. Even if you take another birth, it doesn't matter, because you will be Narayana Para. Or in this verse, Krishna says, Mat Paraha. You will be conscious of me. Your main activity will be focused on me, and you will not become subject to the miseries of the material world. And this is and in this verse also it is explained how one can be Krishna conscious. It gives the explanation of King Ambarish, that he used his legs to walk to the temple. He used his nose to smell the tulsi and the flowers to Krishna, his tongue to take Krishna prasad, his hands to touch the devotees, his ears to hear the glories of the Lord. So in this way, all our senses become automatically spiritualized when we become Krishna conscious. We don't require even liberation. Sarva upavarga narakeshu tasya tulartha darshina. That a Narayana Para, a person who actually understands God, is no longer sectarian. He doesn't see the material world, he doesn't see the spiritual world, he doesn't see the heavenly planets, he doesn't see hell. It doesn't matter, because he knows he is eternally connected with Krishna, and he will not go anywhere without Krishna. Because there is nowhere which is without Krishna. Whether you're in heaven or in hell, Krishna is everywhere, because heaven and hell are manifestations of Krishna. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. Krishna says that by my energy I am permeated everywhere. Matstani sarva bhuta, and everyone is in me. But na chaham teshu avashchitaha. I am not in them if they are not conscious of me. So, become Krishna conscious, use your senses for the pleasure of Krishna, and then that is real liberation. It doesn't matter where you go. Up, down, side, doesn't matter. Wherever you go, you will meet Krishna, and you will. And the ecstasy of life will not be in enjoying the material senses. The ecstasy of life will be your connection with Krishna. Thank you very much. So we have some comments from Mandy Pryor, says Hare Krishna. Atmavidya Das also. Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to Harry-Bolstraat, Amsterdam. Yes, you know, I live in the Ferdinand Bolstraat, but Ari is also a Dutch name. So Harry-Bolstraat is definitely possible. Mandi Prior, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Anna Maria Monchada, Hare Krishna. Obeisance to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna, I would like to know what happened during the time or the gap between leaving this material world and taking a new one. Thanks. There is no gap. According to Srila Prabhupada, when you actually Krishna conscious, it is like waking up from a dream. There is an example. Once Krishna was playing with the cowherd boys, and during the game, one great demon was killed by Lord Balaram. His name was Pralambasura. So while the boys, Krishna and the cowherd boys and Balaram, were busy with their activities and their play, they didn't take care of the cows. And the cows, they were moving away, eating grass. Being allured by fresh grass, they went through a different forest. And then there was suddenly a huge forest fire. It's a very nice example, because the same with us. We are actually meant to play with Krishna. We are Krishna's friends. We are Krishna's associates. We have a life with Krishna. But just like the cows, we become allured by sense enjoyment, eating grass for the cows, and we move away, and suddenly we are lost. And when the cows became lost, in a big forest of bamboo, there was a forest fire. And the forest fire was threatening both the cows and the cowherd boys. And the cowherd boys were very worried, because there were Vaishyas, there were cowherd boys. Cows were their lives and their very life. So they prayed to Krishna, please help us. So Krishna said, close your eyes. So they closed their eyes, and Krishna, he swallowed the fire. And then when they opened their eyes, they found the fire was gone, and they were back under the banyan tree where they had begun their lila, as if nothing had happened. So similarly, when you become Krishna conscious, when death will come, it will be just like waking up from a dream. Suppose you're dreaming, you're in a nightmare, and you're suffering in this dream. Suddenly you wake up, oh, it was a nightmare. I'm okay, I'm fine. So in the same way, this is how it works. So thank you very much. You please continue your comments. I will reply on my Facebook page, and hopefully I'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.